If you've ever said something you can't take back, this story will haunt you. There was a man who had everything. A billion-dollar empire. A mansion that touched the clouds. Power that made grown men tremble. But he lost the one thing he never knew he needed. And what she left behind wasn't money. It wasn't a letter of anger or revenge. It was something that made him fall to his knees in a hospital corridor, screaming her name until his voice shattered. This is the story of Lily Morrison, the invisible wife. The woman who loved a man who wished she would disappear. He got his wish. But by the time he realized what he'd lost, she was already gone. 3 months earlier, everything changed with 6 words. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Morrison estate, casting golden light across marble floors that echoed with emptiness. Lily stood in the kitchen, her hands moving with practiced precision as she prepared breakfast. Poached eggs, whole grain toast, fresh-pressed orange juice. Everything exactly how he liked it. She glanced at the clock. 7:15. He'd be down in exactly 3 minutes. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the small pill bottle hidden behind the coffee canister. She swallowed 2 white tablets quickly, chasing them with water, then tucked the bottle back into its hiding place. The tremor in her hands was getting worse. She'd noticed it 3 days ago. Footsteps on the stairs. She straightened, smoothed her dress, and placed his breakfast on the dining table. Damien Morrison entered the room without looking at her. 44 years old, silver threading through his dark hair, a jawline that belonged on magazine covers. He wore a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's cars. His phone was already pressed to his ear. "I don't care what the board thinks, Marcus. We're moving forward with the acquisition." "Yes, today." Lily pulled out his chair. He sat without acknowledgement. She poured his coffee. He didn't say thank you. She returned to the kitchen and watched him eat the meal she'd spent 30 minutes perfecting. He never once looked up. "Damien," she said softly. "It's our anniversary today." His fingers paused on his phone screen for half a second, then continued scrolling. "I have the reservation at 7. That Italian place you mentioned loving last. Cancel it." The words were flat. Final. "But I thought we could." "Lily, I have a presentation to the Tokyo investors tonight. It's been on the calendar for 2 months. It hadn't been." She checked his calendar every morning. The dinner with investors appeared yesterday. "Maybe tomorrow then?" He stood, leaving half his breakfast untouched. "I'll be in Singapore tomorrow. Then London. Then back to Tokyo. I'll be gone for 2 weeks." He walked past her toward the door. She caught a whiff of his cologne, the one she'd given him for Christmas. He'd never worn it before today. "Damien, wait." He stopped, his back to her. "Do you remember what today is?" "Our anniversary. You just said that. It's been 5 years." Silence stretched between them like a chasm. "I'll have my assistant send flowers to the house." He checked his watch. "I'm late." The door closed behind him. The sound echoed through the empty mansion. Lily stood in the kitchen, staring at his unfinished breakfast. Slowly, she picked up his plate and scraped the food into the trash. Then she sat in his chair and looked at the empty seat across from her. The seat where she would have sat if he'd ever invited her to join him. She'd stopped setting a place for herself 3 years ago. That evening, Lily sat alone at the dining room table. She'd cooked anyway. Rosemary chicken, roasted vegetables, the chocolate mousse he used to love. Candles flickered between them, casting dancing shadows on the walls. She checked her phone. 7:30. The reservation was for 7. She called the restaurant and canceled. At 8, she began eating alone. The food tasted like dust. At 9, she heard his car in the driveway. Her heart lifted involuntarily. Maybe he'd come home early. Maybe he remembered. Maybe. The door opened. Damien stumbled in, his tie loose, his shirt partially unbuttoned. The smell of whiskey preceded him into the room. "You're still up." His words slurred slightly. "I waited for you." He laughed. It was not a kind sound. The presentation got canceled. Investors flew back to Tokyo this morning. Marcus took me out for drinks instead. You could have called. We could have. Could have what, Lily? He leaned against the doorframe. Sat here in silence while you stare at me like a wounded puppy? While you hover around me like I'm some kind of project you need to fix? The words struck her like physical blows. I just wanted to spend time with you. Time. He pushed off the doorframe and walked toward her. You have all the time in the world, don't you? While I'm building an empire, you're here arranging flowers and cooking meals I don't have time to eat. I gave up my career for this marriage. You asked me to. I asked you to be a wife, not a ghost haunting my own house. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she'd learned years ago not to let them fall. What do you want from me, Damien? He looked at her then, really looked at her. And what she saw in his eyes was worse than anger. It was nothing. Honestly. His voice dropped to something cold and hollow. Your presence irritates me, Lily. Every morning, every evening, you're just there. Watching. Waiting. Hoping for something I can't give you. I wish you'd just disappear forever. The candles flickered. The mousse melted slowly on untouched plates. Lily felt something inside her chest crack. Not her heart. That had been breaking slowly for years. This was something deeper. Something final. Okay, she whispered. What? Okay. I'll disappear. She stood, walked past him, and climbed the stairs to their bedroom. She didn't look back. Damien stood in the dining room, staring at the elaborate dinner she'd prepared. At the candles burning low. At the single gift wrapped in silver paper beside his plate. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands. Then he set it down and walked to his study. He didn't open it. Have you ever loved someone who couldn't see you? Someone who looked right through you like you were glass? Drop a comment below if this story is hitting different for you. Lily lay in bed that night, listening to Damien's footsteps in the hallway below. Working. Always working. She pulled out her phone and stared at the email from Dr. Sarah Lim. The subject line read, Urgent, test results. She'd been ignoring it for 3 days. Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then she opened it. The words swam before her eyes. Advanced cardiomyopathy. Rapidly progressing. Transplant recommended within 6 months. Without intervention, survival rate drops to less than 30%. She closed her eyes. Somewhere in the house, a door slammed. She thought about the man she'd married 6 years ago. The one who'd proposed under cherry blossoms and promised her forever. The one who'd laughed at her terrible jokes and stayed up all night talking about dreams and fears and futures. That man had disappeared years ago, buried under ambition and success and the weight of an empire he'd built with his bare hands. And somewhere along the way, he'd stopped seeing her. I know. You're 28 years old. I know. Dr. Lim stood and moved to the window, her back to Lily. When she spoke again, her voice was thick. In my 15 years as a cardiologist, I've watched dozens of patients give up. But they were always old. Tired. At the end of very long lives. She turned. You're not even 30. You have decades ahead of you. Decades of what? Lily's voice cracked for the first time. Cooking meals no one eats? Sleeping next to someone who wishes I didn't exist? Living in a house that feels like a mausoleum? Then leave him. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Dr. Lim sat back down, leaning forward intensely. Lily, I see your chart. I see the weight loss, the depression markers, the way you flinch when I ask about your support system. Whatever is happening in your marriage, it's killing you faster than the cardiomyopathy. Lily stood, gathering her purse. I need to go. Wait. Dr. Lim grabbed a prescription pad and scribbled quickly. At least take these. They'll help with the fluid buildup and arrhythmias. Make you more comfortable. Lily took the paper. Thank you. And Lily. Dr. Lim caught her hand. Please tell someone. Your sister. A friend. Anyone. I will. It was a lie, and they both knew it. The Morrison estate had 37 rooms. Lily knew because she'd counted them during her first year of marriage, back when she'd still believed she could make this house a home. Her favorite was the sunroom on the east wing. Damien never went there. He'd given it to her as a wedding gift, telling her she could use it as an art studio. She'd been an interior designer before they married. Award-winning. Her work had been featured in magazines and galleries. She'd given it all up when he asked her to. Now the sunroom sat untouched, furniture covered in white sheets, her drafting table buried under dust. Lily pulled the sheets away slowly, letting them pool on the floor like ghosts. Underneath, her old life waited. Sketches of dream homes. Fabric swatches in colors that sang. Photos of completed projects, clients smiling in spaces she'd transformed. And paintings. Dozens of paintings she'd done in those early days when she'd still had hope. She pulled out a canvas and stared at it. A portrait of Damien sleeping, painted in the first year of their marriage. She'd captured him in a rare moment of peace, his face soft, unguarded. The way he'd looked before the empire consumed him. She'd painted him in dozens of poses over the years. Working at his desk. Standing at the window. Laughing at something on his phone. Small moments she'd tried to preserve before they disappeared. He'd never seen a single one. Lily pulled out her phone and called the only person who knew her anymore. Maya, it's me. I need to ask you something. Maya Harrison had been Lily's best friend since college. They'd met in a design theory class and bonded over terrible coffee and late-night drafting sessions. Maya had been her maid of honor, had warned her gently that Damien seemed like the kind of man who'd consume her whole if she wasn't careful. Lily hadn't listened. Now they sat in a coffee shop downtown, far from the Morrison estate and the life Lily had built on quicksand. You look terrible, Maya said bluntly. Have you been eating? Straight to the point as always. Lily, I'm serious. You're disappearing. The word hung between them like a prophecy. I need a favor. Maya set down her cup. Anything. I need you to not ask questions. That's not starting well. Lily pulled out a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Inside are instructions. Bank accounts, passwords, legal documents. My will. Maya's face went white. Lily, I need you to promise me something. Lily's voice was steady now. Clear. When I'm gone, I need you to make sure these get to the right people. There are letters for Damien. One for each month we were married. Don't give them to him until after. After what? Maya's voice rose. What the hell is going on? I'm sick, Maya. The words fell like stones into still water. How sick? Very. What does Damien say? He doesn't know. Maya stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You have to tell him. No. Lily, he's your husband. He wished I would disappear. Lily looked up at her friend, and for the first time, let the tears fall. Last night, he looked me in the eyes and told me my presence irritates him, that he wishes I would just vanish forever. So I'm giving him what he wants. You're not serious. I've already found an apartment across town. Small. Quiet. Somewhere I can spend whatever time I have left without feeling like a ghost in my own life. Maya sank back into her chair, her hands shaking. How long? 6 months. Maybe less. And you're not fighting this? Lily smiled sadly. I've been fighting for 5 years, Maya. Trying to make him see me. Love me. Notice that I exist. I'm so tired. What about your sister? Does Natalie know? Not yet. I'll tell her. Eventually. Maya grabbed Lily's hands across the table. Please don't do this. Get treatment. Leave Damien if you have to, but don't just give up. I'm not giving up. I'm letting go. There's a difference. Lily. Promise me, Maya. Promise you'll deliver the letters. Maya's tears fell silently. I promise. Thank you. Lily pulled her hands back and stood. I have to go. There's something I need to do. What? Something meaningful. Finally. The Morrison Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. 500 guests, $10,000 a plate, all proceeds going to business education programs for underprivileged youth. Damien had insisted Lily attend. Not because he wanted her there, but because a wife at these events looked good for the company image. Lily stood in front of her closet, staring at dresses that cost more than her first car. She chose a simple black gown, elegant and understated. The kind of dress that helped her blend into the background. She'd gotten very good at being invisible. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and champagne flutes. Lily entered alone. Damien was already there, surrounded by investors and board members, his laugh carrying across the crowd. He looked happy, relaxed. He hadn't looked at her like that in years. Lily Morrison, as I live and breathe. She turned to find Marcus Reeves approaching, Damien's business partner and closest friend. Marcus had always been kind to her. One of the few people in Damien's orbit who remembered her name. Marcus, how are you? Better than you, apparently. His smile faded as he studied her face. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. Just tired. Tired or exhausted. There's a difference. He guided her to a quiet corner. Talk to me. What's going on? Nothing. Everything's fine. Lily, I've known you for 6 years. I know what fine looks like, and this isn't it. She wanted to tell him. Wanted to crack open and spill everything. But what would be the point? I'm just not sleeping well. Marcus didn't look convinced, but he nodded. If you ever need anything. I know. Thank you. Across the room, Damien was laughing at something a blonde woman said. She touched his arm. He didn't pull away. Lily felt a familiar twist in her chest. Not jealousy. Something colder. Acceptance. Excuse me, she whispered and walked toward the bathroom. Her heart hammered irregularly. Too fast, then too slow. The room tilted. She made it to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall. Her hands shook as she pulled out her medication. She'd forgotten to take it this morning. And yesterday. Dr. Lim's voice echoed in her head. Take them consistently. She swallowed 2 pills dry and leaned against the cold tile wall, waiting for the arrhythmia to pass. The bathroom door opened. Footsteps. Lily? Are you in here? Natalie. Her younger sister. I'm fine. Just needed a minute. Open the door. Nat. Now. Lily opened the stall door. Natalie stood there in a burgundy gown, her face etched with concern. How long? Natalie asked quietly. How long what? Don't play games with me. Maya called. How long have you been sick? Lily closed her eyes. 2 months since the diagnosis. 6 months before that of symptoms. And you didn't tell me? I didn't want to worry you. Natalie grabbed her sister's shoulders. I'm your sister. Worrying about you is literally in my job description. Her voice cracked. How bad is it? Bad. Are you getting treatment? Silence was its own answer. Lily, no. You have to fight this. I can't. You mean you won't? What's the difference? Natalie's eyes filled with tears. The difference is one leaves me without my sister. Does Damien know? No. You have to tell him. Why? So he can feel obligated to care. So I can watch him pretend to love me out of guilt. Lily shook her head. I'd rather die than live like that. Stop talking like that. It's the truth. Lily steadied herself against the sink. I'm leaving him, Nat. I've already started packing. I found a small place across town. I'll be gone by the end of the week. And then what? Then I spend whatever time I have left doing something that matters. I've been invisible for 5 years. I want to be seen, even if only by myself. Natalie pulled her sister into a fierce hug. I won't let you disappear alone. You might have to. They stood in the bathroom, holding each other, while outside the gala continued. Music played. People laughed. The world kept turning, indifferent to the quiet devastation unfolding in a marble bathroom. If this story is gripping you, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will break you. Lily woke at 5 in the morning, 3 days after the gala. The house was silent. Damien had left for his 2-week trip yesterday. He'd said goodbye with a distracted wave and a reminder to have his dry cleaning picked up. She'd watched him drive away and felt nothing. She dressed slowly, carefully, packed a single suitcase with essentials. Everything else could stay. The designer clothes, the jewelry, the trappings of a life that had never really been hers. She walked through the house one last time. Through the kitchen where she'd cooked thousands of meals he barely touched. Through the living room where they'd sat in silence watching television. Through their bedroom where they'd slept back to back, continents apart. She paused in the doorway of his study, walked to his desk, and pulled out a piece of his stationery. Her hand trembled as she wrote, Damien, you got your wish. I've disappeared. Don't look for me. You're finally free. L. She placed the note on his pillow, beside her wedding ring. The ring caught the early morning light, throwing small rainbows across the white sheets. She picked up her suitcase and walked out the front door of the Morrison estate for the last time. Damien Morrison returned from Singapore 2 weeks later to an empty house. Not physically empty. The furniture was still there. The art on the walls. The echo of wealth in every corner. But Lily was gone. He'd noticed on the 3rd day of his trip. She hadn't responded to his text asking her to reschedule a dentist appointment. Then she'd missed his call about the dry cleaning. By day 5, her phone went straight to voicemail. He'd assumed she was being petulant, punishing him for the anniversary he'd forgotten. She'd get over it. She always did. Now he stood in their bedroom, staring at the note on his pillow, at the wedding ring glinting beside it. He read the note 3 times. Then he crumpled it in his fist and threw it across the room. Dramatic, he muttered. Always so dramatic. He called her phone. Voicemail. He checked her closet. Most of her clothes were still there. Good. She'd taken barely anything. She'd be back in a few days. He went to his study and buried himself in work. The Tokyo deal needed his attention. The London investors were getting nervous. Marcus kept calling about the quarterly projections. Lily would come back. She had nowhere else to go. Day 3. Still no word. Damien found himself walking through the house, noticing small absences. Her coffee cup wasn't in the sink. Her book wasn't on the nightstand. The flowers she always kept fresh in the entryway had wilted and died. He called Marcus. Have you heard from Lily? No. Why would I? Marcus's voice carried a sharp edge. You're her husband. You haven't heard from your own wife. She left. Silence on the line. What do you mean left? She's gone. Left a note. Took her ring off. When? 2 weeks ago. While I was traveling. And you're just now concerned? Marcus's voice rose. Damien, what the hell did you do? Nothing. I didn't do anything. That's the problem, isn't it? Marcus exhaled sharply. Have you tried calling her sister? Not yet. Maybe start there. Or better yet, think about why your wife would rather disappear than stay in that house with you. The line went dead. Damien stood in his study, staring at his phone. Outside, rain began to fall. He should get back to work. The projections wouldn't review themselves. But for the first time in 5 years, he couldn't focus. Day 7. Damien needed a file from Lily's studio. Tax documents he'd asked her to organize months ago. He stood outside the sunroom door. He couldn't remember the last time he'd been inside. 2 years. 3. He opened the door. The space smelled like dust and abandonment. White sheets covered furniture like shrouds. He pulled one away and found her drafting table. Her pencils, perfectly organized. Her sketches, carefully preserved. He pulled another sheet. A painting stared back at him. It was him, sleeping. The morning light soft across his face, his expression peaceful. It was beautiful, intimate, painted with the kind of attention that came from love. He pulled away more sheets. Dozens of paintings. All of him. Him at his desk, frowning at his laptop. Him standing at the window, silhouetted against the city skyline. Him laughing at his phone, a rare moment of joy captured in oil and canvas. Him asleep, awake, working, thinking. Moments he didn't remember living, preserved by someone who'd been paying attention. In the corner, he found her portfolio. Design work from before they married. Magazine features. Award certificates. Letters from clients praising her vision and talent. She'd been brilliant. He'd forgotten that. Or maybe he'd never really known. He sat on the dusty floor, surrounded by evidence of a woman he'd stopped seeing years ago. A woman who'd watched him, loved him, painted him, while he'd looked right through her. His phone buzzed. A number he didn't recognize. Mr. Morrison? This is Miller and Associates. We're handling a medical billing issue for your wife. There's been a lapse in payment and... What medical billing? The invoices from Dr. Sarah Lim at Metropolitan Cardiology. Mrs. Morrison has been a patient for approximately 8 months. The outstanding balance is... Damien hung up. Cardiology. He called the number on the billing notice. Metropolitan Cardiology, how may I help you? I need to speak with Dr. Sarah Lim. It's about my wife, Lily Morrison. I'll transfer you. The hold music felt endless. This is Dr. Lim. This is Damien Morrison. I need to know what's wrong with my wife. A long pause. Mr. Morrison, I can't discuss a patient's medical history without consent. She's my wife. She's an adult with medical privacy rights. Dr. Lim's voice was cold. Professional. If you want information, you'll need to get it from Mrs. Morrison directly. She's gone. She left. I can't reach her. Another pause. Then, I see. Please. What's wrong with her? Mr. Morrison, what I can tell you is this. Your wife has a serious medical condition. She was advised to pursue aggressive treatment. She refused. His blood ran cold. How serious? Life-threatening. And she refused treatment? Why? You'd have to ask her that. Dr. Lim's voice softened slightly. Though I have my theories. What theories? She told me there was nothing to fight for. That no one would care if she died. That she didn't want to be anyone's burden. A beat. She was wrong about that, wasn't she? Was she? Damien thought about the last 5 years. The meals he'd ignored. The conversations he'd shut down. The way he'd walked past her like she was furniture. The anniversary he'd forgotten. The words he'd said. Your presence irritates me. I wish you'd disappear forever. Mr. Morrison? Are you still there? How long does she have? I can't tell you that. Please. Dr. Lim sighed. Without treatment? Months. Maybe less. The phone slipped from his hand. The doorbell rang at midnight. Damien opened it to find Natalie standing on his doorstep, rain soaking her clothes. In her hands, she held a wooden box. You bastard, she said quietly. Natalie. She threw the box at him. It hit his chest and fell to the ground, spilling papers and envelopes across the marble entryway. She wanted you to have these after she was gone. But I've decided you need to see them now. You need to understand what you did. What I did. She left me. No. Natalie's voice shook with rage. You left her years ago. You just kept sleeping in the same house. She turned to leave. Wait, where is she? Somewhere you'll never find her. Somewhere she can finally breathe without feeling like she's suffocating. I need to see her. Why? So you can ease your guilt. So you can pretend you care now that it's too late. Natalie's eyes blazed. Read the letters, Damien. Every single one. Maybe then you'll understand who you lost. She walked into the rain and disappeared. Damien knelt and gathered the envelopes. There were 60 of them, one for each month of their marriage. He carried them to his study, spread them across his desk, and began to read. Month 1, May. Damien, I'm writing this from our honeymoon suite while you're sleeping. I can't stop looking at you, can't stop smiling. I keep thinking about our wedding, how handsome you looked, how you cried when I walked down the aisle. You said I was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. I'm so happy. I didn't know I could be this happy. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anyone. Forever yours, Lily. Month 12, April. Damien, it's our first anniversary. You're at the office, even though you promised you'd come home early. I made your favorite dinner. It's getting cold on the table. I keep telling myself you're building our future, that the long hours will pay off, that once the company is stable, you'll have more time. I'm trying to be patient. I miss you, even when you're sleeping next to me. Love, Lily. Month 24, April. Damien, 2 years married today. You forgot again. I'm starting to wonder if you ever think about me when you're at work. If I cross your mind at all during those 16-hour days. I tried to talk to you last night about feeling lonely. You said I was being needy. Maybe I am. I'm sorry for wanting your time. Your attention. You. I'll try to be better. Love, Lily. Month 36, April. Damien, 3 years. I don't think you remember my face anymore. Not really. You look at me, but you don't see me. I gave up my career for this marriage. For you. You asked me to, and I did, because I thought being your wife would be enough. It isn't. But I don't know who I am anymore outside of this house. This half-life. I love you. I hate that I still love you. Lily. Month 48, April. Damien, for years. Another anniversary alone. I've stopped cooking elaborate dinners. You don't eat them anyway. I've stopped waiting up for you. You don't notice. I've stopped asking you to spend time with me. You always say no. I'm becoming invisible, and you don't even notice I'm fading. Is this what forever looks like? Lily. Month 60, April. Damien, 5 years married today. The same day I got my diagnosis. Advanced cardiomyopathy. My heart is failing. Poetic, isn't it? My heart has been breaking for years. Now it's just catching up to the rest of me. I'm not going to tell you. You'd feel obligated to care, and I don't want your pity. I don't want to be your burden. I forgive you for not loving me back. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I finally learned to let you go. I've left you my paintings. They're the only proof I was ever here. I've left you my journals. Maybe you'll finally know who I was. And I've left you something else. Check the registry at St. Catherine's Hospital. I hope one day you find someone who makes you feel alive. I'm sorry I couldn't be her. Forever yours, even in silence. Lily. Damien read the final letter 3 times. His hands shook. His chest felt hollow. St. Catherine's Hospital. He grabbed his keys and ran. The hospital was quiet at 2 in the morning. The fluorescent lights cast everything in sickly yellow. Damien burst through the emergency room doors. I need information about Lily Morrison. She should be registered here. The nurse at the desk typed slowly. Mrs. Morrison is registered with our organ donation program. The floor tilted. What? She completed the paperwork 6 weeks ago. Signed consent for donation of all viable organs upon her death. Upon her death. The words didn't make sense. She's not dead. You wished I would disappear. So I am. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. I'm sorry I couldn't make you love me. The nurse's face filled with sympathy. Sir, Mrs. Morrison passed away 3 days ago. Her organs were harvested according to her wishes. The world stopped. Damien couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too bright, too loud. Everything was too much and not enough. No. His voice came out broken. No, that's not possible. I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. Morrison. Where is she? I need to see her. Sir, as I said, Mrs. Morrison passed 3 days ago. Her body has already been. Where was she? His voice rose, cracking. Where was she these last weeks? Why didn't anyone call me? The nurse glanced at her screen. According to our records, she listed her sister, Natalie Harper, as her emergency contact and next of kin. Her husband's name was noted as estranged. Estranged. The word hit him like a physical blow. Who received her organs? The question tore from his throat. Who got them? I can't release that information without. Please. He was begging now. Didn't care. Please, I need to know. Something. Anything. The nurse looked at him for a long moment. Then she picked up the phone. Let me get the transplant coordinator. Dr. Patricia Chun found Damien in the waiting room 20 minutes later. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Mr. Morrison? He looked up. His eyes were red, devastated. I'm Dr. Chun. I coordinated your wife's organ donations. She sat beside him. I'm very sorry for your loss. Tell me about the recipients. Please. I need to know her death meant something. Dr. Chun studied him carefully. Then she opened a folder. Your wife's generosity saved and improved 6 lives. Her heart went to a 7-year-old girl named Emma Rodriguez. She'd been on the transplant list for 2 years. Without a donor, she had maybe 3 months left. A 7-year-old. Lily had saved a child. Her liver saved a father of 3. Her kidneys gave 2 people their lives back. Her corneas gave sight to a teenager who'd been blind since birth. Her lungs went to a firefighter who'd been injured saving a family from a burning building. 6 people. 6 lives. 6 families who got to keep someone they loved. Your wife also donated her tissue, bone, and skin. Those donations will help dozens more people over the coming months and years. Damien's breath came in ragged gasps. Did she suffer? At the end, she died peacefully in hospice care. Her sister was with her. She wasn't alone. Natalie had been there. He hadn't. She left something for you. Dr. Chin pulled an envelope from the folder. She gave it to me 2 weeks before she passed. Asked me to make sure you received it after everything was done. Damien took the envelope with shaking hands. His name was written across the front in Lily's handwriting. Small, neat, careful. Dr. Chin stood. The little girl who received your wife's heart is in the pediatric wing. Room 412. Her parents have been told about the donor. If you'd like to meet them, I can arrange it. She walked away, leaving Damien alone with the final words his wife would ever speak to him. He opened the envelope. Damien, if you're reading this, then you met Dr. Chin. You know what I did. I hope it doesn't make you angry. I've spent the last few weeks thinking about my life, about what I contributed, what I left behind. For so long, I thought my purpose was to be your wife, to make you happy, to be worthy of your love. But I was wrong. You don't need me. You never did. And that's okay. I don't blame you. You can't force someone to love you, no matter how hard you try. But there are people who did need me. Emma needs a heart. Thomas needs a liver. Sarah and David need kidneys. Marcus needs corneas. Jennifer needs lungs. My failing heart is giving Emma a chance I never got. A chance to be truly alive. To be loved. To matter. I spent 5 years invisible to you. But I'll be visible in them. Every time Emma laughs. Every time Thomas hugs his children. Every time Sarah sees a sunrise. I'll be there. Adrian, if you're reading this, then I hope you met Emma. I hope you heard her laugh. I hope you see what my heart is doing now that it's no longer breaking in silence. I don't regret loving you. I only regret that you never let me in. Don't blame yourself. Just live. Really live. And maybe love someone the way I loved you, completely recklessly, without conditions. That's my last wish. Find someone who makes you want to be present. Someone you see. Someone whose presence doesn't irritate you, but completes you. Give them the version of you I only glimpsed in our first year. The man who laughed easily and dreamed big and wasn't afraid to feel. That man is still in there. I know he is. I saw him sometimes, late at night when you thought I was sleeping. When you'd look at me with something that almost looked like regret. Let him out. Before it's too late. Goodbye, Damien. Thank you for giving me your name, even if you couldn't give me your heart. I hope you find peace. I hope you find love. I hope you find what I was always looking for in you. The courage to be vulnerable. Forever yours, even in the end. Lily. P.S. If you ever wondered what that silver-wrapped gift was on our last anniversary, it was a watch. I had it engraved with the coordinates of where you proposed to me under the cherry blossoms. I thought maybe you'd forgotten. I wanted to remind you of when we were happy. You never opened it. Damien's hands shook so violently the letter fell to the floor. A sound tore from his throat, raw and animal. It echoed through the empty waiting room, bouncing off sterile walls. He'd wished she would disappear. And she did. But not before making sure her absence would save lives he'd never cared enough to think about. Lives that mattered to people who would grieve and celebrate and remember. She'd done in death what she couldn't do in life, become unforgettable. He doubled over, the sobs ripping through him like knives. 5 years of ignored meals and forgotten anniversaries and cruel words crashed over him. 5 years of walking past her like she was wallpaper. 5 years of taking for granted that she'd always be there, waiting, hoping, loving him despite everything. She'd been dying, and he hadn't noticed. She'd been disappearing, and he'd been relieved. A security guard approached cautiously. "Sir? Are you all right?" Damien looked up, his face wet with tears, his eyes wild with grief. "My wife is dead. I'm very sorry, sir. I killed her." The words came out in a whisper. "I killed her with neglect and indifference and cruelty, and now she's gone and I can't. He couldn't breathe, couldn't see, couldn't exist in a world where Lily Morrison had walked through it quietly, loved him completely, and died believing she was nothing. The security guard helped him to his feet. "Sir, let me call someone for you." "No." Damien steadied himself. "No. I need to see Emma. Room 412. "Sir, it's 3 in the morning. I don't care. I need to see what Lily's heart is doing now. I need to see that her death meant something because her life." His voice broke. "Because her life meant everything and I never told her. Have you ever realized too late what you had? Have you ever lost someone because you stopped seeing them? Share this video with someone you love before it's too late." Emma Rodriguez's room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of medical monitors. A little girl slept in the bed, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Lily's heart beating inside her. Damien stood in the doorway, afraid to enter. Afraid to disturb the miracle his wife had created with her last act of love. A woman sat in the chair beside Emma's bed. She looked up, startled to see someone in the doorway at this hour. "I'm sorry," Damien whispered. "I didn't mean to intrude. His voice caught. "I'm Lily Morrison's husband." The woman's eyes widened. She stood slowly and walked to him. Without a word, she pulled him into the hallway. "You're her husband." It wasn't a question. "Dr. Chin told us about you. I wanted to see her." The little girl. "Emma. It's 3 in the morning. I know. I'm sorry. I needed to see that my wife's death saved someone. I needed to see that it mattered." The woman, Emma's mother, studied him with eyes that had seen too much suffering. Then her expression softened. "Come with me." She led him to the family lounge, where a man sat drinking coffee that had long since gone cold. Emma's father. "Daniel, this is Mr. Morrison, Lily's husband." Daniel Rodriguez stood immediately. Then, without warning, he pulled Damien into a fierce embrace. "Your wife gave us our daughter back. We'd been told to prepare for the worst. Emma was getting weaker every day. The transplant list is so long, and children die waiting, and we thought," his voice broke, "we thought we were going to lose her." Emma's mother touched Damien's arm gently. "The surgery was 5 days ago. Emma woke up yesterday. Her first words were, 'Mama, I don't hurt anymore.'" Damien felt his knees weaken. He sat heavily in one of the plastic chairs. "She doesn't know about the donor yet. She's too young to fully understand. But when she's older, we'll tell her about the angel who gave her a second chance." "She wasn't an angel," Damien said hollowly. "She was just a woman who wanted to be seen. And I never looked at her." Emma's parents exchanged glances. "Dr. Chin told us a little about your wife," Emma's mother said carefully. "She said Lily was very specific about wanting her heart to go to a child. That she signed the papers and said, 'I want my heart to finally be where it's treasured.'" The words destroyed him. "Can I?" Damien swallowed hard. "Can I see her? Just for a moment." They led him back to Emma's room. She was still sleeping, her dark curls spread across the pillow, a stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. Damien approached the bed slowly, carefully, like he was approaching something sacred. He could see Lily's heart beating in the monitor. Steady, strong, keeping this child alive. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She is." Emma's mother smiled. "She wants to be an artist when she grows up. She draws constantly, paints. She says colors make her happy. An artist. Like Lily. Would you?" Emma's mother pulled something from her purse. "Would you give this to Mr. Morrison?" She handed him an envelope with his name written in Lily's handwriting. Another letter. How many had she written? She gave this to the transplant coordinator with very specific instructions. It was to be delivered to you only after you'd met Emma. Damien took the envelope with trembling hands. Emma stirred in her sleep. Her small hand moved to her chest, resting over the scar where surgeons had given her Lily's heart. I feel her sometimes, Emma had told the doctors, according to her mother. The angel lady. Like she's hugging me from the inside. Damien left the room before he could break down again. He sat in his car in the hospital parking lot as dawn broke over the city. The envelope sat on the passenger seat, waiting. He couldn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he drove. He drove past the coffee shop where he'd proposed to Lily 6 years ago. The cherry blossoms were in bloom. She'd worn a yellow dress. She'd said yes before he'd finished asking. He drove past the apartment they'd lived in during their first year of marriage. A tiny one-bedroom with a broken heater and a view of a brick wall. They'd been happy there. She'd painted the walls herself, turning that small space into something magical. He drove past the design firm where she'd worked, where she'd won awards, where she'd dreamed of making beautiful spaces for people to live and love and grow. She'd given all of that up for him, and he'd given her nothing in return. He ended up at Oak Hill Cemetery. He didn't know how he knew she'd be there, but somehow he did. It took him an hour to find her grave. It was in a quiet corner under an old oak tree. The headstone was simple, elegant. Lily Morrison, beloved sister, friend, wife. She painted the world more beautiful. 1997 to 2025. Someone had left fresh flowers. Lilies, appropriately. And beside them, a small framed sketch, one of Lily's designs. A dream house she'd never built. Damien collapsed onto the grass in front of her grave. I'm sorry. The words came out broken. God, Lily, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I forgot our anniversaries. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I'm sorry I said those things. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you were sick. I'm sorry I didn't fight for you, for us, for what we could have been. The oak tree rustled in the morning breeze. Birds sang. The world kept turning. You saved a little girl. She's going to live because of you. She wants to be an artist. Just like you. Tears streamed down his face. You saved 6 people, Lily. Your death mattered more than I ever made your life matter. He pulled out the envelope Emma's mother had given him, opened it with shaking hands. Damien, if you're reading this, then you met Emma. You saw my heart beating in her chest. You understand now what I couldn't explain before. I'm not gone. Not really. I'm in Emma's laughter. In Thomas's hugs with his children. In every sunset Sarah sees, and every breath Jennifer takes. I'm everywhere now. You asked me once, years ago, what I wanted from life. Do you remember? It was our first month of marriage. We were lying in bed, talking about dreams. I said I wanted to matter. I wanted to leave the world a little more beautiful than I found it. You laughed and said I was being dramatic. That I already mattered. That being your wife was enough. But it wasn't. Not because you weren't enough, but because I needed to be enough for myself. I hope Emma lives a long, beautiful life. I hope she creates art that makes people feel seen. I hope she falls in love with someone who treasures her. I hope she never forgets that she's a miracle. And I hope you understand now, Damien. I didn't leave you to punish you. I left you to free both of us. You were drowning in your empire, and I was drowning in trying to save you. We were both sinking. Now I've let go. And maybe you can too. There's a box in my studio, under the window seat. Inside is every design I never got to build, every dream I put on hold, every piece of myself I lost trying to be what you needed. Keep them or burn them, or donate them to someone who still dreams. I don't need them anymore. But there's one design I want you to have. It's labeled Forever Home. I drew it during our first year of marriage. It was my vision of the life we'd build together. I never showed it to you. I was afraid you'd laugh. Or worse, not care. Look at it now. See what I saw. What I hoped for. What I loved you enough to believe was possible. And then let it go. Let me go. Build something new. Something real. Something present. Find someone who makes you want to be there. Someone whose morning coffee you remember. Someone whose paintings you notice. Someone you see. I forgive you, Damien. I forgave you long before I left. Anger takes too much energy, and I had so little left. I hope someday you forgive yourself. This is my final letter. My final goodbye. There's nothing more to say except this. Thank you for the good year we had. Thank you for cherry blossoms and terrible coffee, and the way you used to look at me like I was magic. Keep that version of yourself alive. He's worth knowing. Be present, Damien. Be here. Be alive. That's all any of us can do. Forever yours, for the last time. Lily. Damien sat at her grave until the sun was high in the sky. He read the letter 3 times. Then he placed it carefully back in the envelope and set it on her headstone, weighed down with a stone. I'll visit Emma, he promised the heir. I'll make sure she knows who you were, what you gave her. I'll make sure your heart is loved the way it should have been. He stood slowly, his body aching like he'd aged decades overnight. And I'll look at the design, the forever home. I'll see what you dreamed of, what I was too blind to notice. The oak tree rustled again. A single leaf fell and landed on Lily's grave. Damien picked it up, pressed it between the pages of her letter, and walked away. 6 months later, Damien Morrison stood in what used to be Lily's studio. He'd spent weeks in here after her death, reading her journals, looking at her paintings, understanding slowly and painfully who she'd been when he wasn't paying attention. She'd been brilliant. She'd been kind. She'd been lonely. She'd been dying, and she'd faced it with more grace than he'd ever managed to show while living. Now the studio was being packed up, not thrown away, donated. Marcus Reeves entered carrying empty boxes. The foundation coordinator is here, ready to go through everything. The Victoria Morrison Foundation for Women in Art had launched 3 months ago. Funded entirely by Damien, it provided scholarships, gallery space, and mentorship for female artists and designers who'd given up their careers for family obligations. Women like Lily. They can take everything except the forever home design, Damien said. That one I'm keeping. Marcus set down the boxes and looked at his friend. Really looked at him. Damien had changed. Lost weight. Gained lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and heavy grief. But there was something else too. Something that hadn't been there before. Presence. How are you doing? Marcus asked. I'm here, Damien said simply. That's all I can manage right now. That's more than you were before. They worked in silence for a while, carefully packing Lily's art supplies, her sketches, her dreams. I visited Emma yesterday, Damien said quietly. She's doing well, getting stronger every day. Her parents invited me to her 8th birthday party next month. Are you going? Yes. Damien smiled sadly. Lily would have wanted that. He pulled out a canvas, one of the paintings of himself sleeping. Is it weird that I talk to her sometimes? To Lily. No, Marcus said. I think it's human. I tell her about Emma, about the foundation, about the therapy I'm in. Damien traced the painted lines of his own face. I tell her I'm sorry, even though she's not here to hear it. Maybe she is. You believe in that? Marcus shrugged. I believe that love doesn't just disappear. It changes form, becomes something else, something that stays. Damien set the painting carefully in a box labeled Morrison Estate, Personal. I'm selling the house. Marcus looked up sharply. The mansion. It's not a home. It never was. It's a monument to all my failures. Damien looked around the studio. I'm buying something smaller, closer to the city, somewhere I can actually live instead of just exist. What will you do with the money? Half goes to the foundation. The other half is being split between Emma's family and the other 5 recipients of Lily's organs. Education funds, medical expenses, whatever they need. Lily would be proud of you. Lily would be alive if I'd been half the man I'm trying to become now. Damien's voice cracked. That's what kills me, Marcus. I had time. I had years. And I wasted all of it being too busy, too important, too focused on building an empire while my wife disappeared right in front of me. You can't change the past. No. But I can make sure her death means something. I can make sure other women don't have to give up who they are to be someone's wife. I can make sure Emma knows she's carrying the heart of someone extraordinary. Marcus gripped his friend's shoulder. You're doing that. You're honoring her. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. No, Marcus agreed. But it's something. And something is how we survive what we can't fix. The Victoria Morrison Foundation gallery opening was everything Lily would have loved. White walls covered with artwork from 30 emerging female artists. Designers displaying plans for dream homes they'd been told were too ambitious. Women who'd been told to be practical, to be realistic, to be smaller than their dreams. Damien stood in the center of it all, surrounded by beauty Lily would have treasured. Natalie approached him carefully. They'd barely spoken since her sister's death. The anger between them was a living thing. Thank you for coming, Damien said quietly. I didn't come for you. Natalie looked around the gallery. I came for her. This is what she would have wanted. I know. Do you? Natalie's voice was sharp. Do you really understand what you did to her? How you made her feel? Every day. Damien met her eyes. I think about it every single day. How she cooked meals I didn't eat. How she waited for me when I came home late. How she tried to talk to me and I shut her down. How she was dying and I was too self-absorbed to notice. She loved you. Natalie's voice broke. Even at the end, when she could barely breathe, she still loved you. Do you know how angry that made me? That she wasted her love on someone who couldn't see her. It wasn't wasted, wasn't it? No. Damien pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. Because her love taught me what I was missing. What I was too afraid to feel. What I lost by being too proud and too damaged to be vulnerable. He handed her the paper. This is the design for the foundation's headquarters. I hired the best architects I could find. Gave them one instruction. Build Lily's forever home design exactly as she drew it. Natalie unfolded the paper. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her sister's vision brought to life. Construction starts next month, Damien continued. When it's done, it'll house the foundation, provide studio space for artists, and serve as a reminder that dreams matter. That the people who dream them matter. She would have loved this, Natalie whispered. I know. That's why I'm building it. Damien looked around the gallery. I can't bring her back. I can't undo the pain I caused. But I can make sure her name lives on. That other women get chances she never did. That her death creates opportunities instead of just grief. Natalie folded the design carefully and handed it back to him. I don't forgive you. I don't expect you to. But I see what you're trying to do. And Lily would too. Natalie wiped her eyes. Don't stop. Don't let this be a phase or a way to ease your guilt. Keep going. For her. I will. Promise me. I promise. Natalie nodded once, then walked away to look at the art her sister would never see. Damien stood alone in the center of the gallery, surrounded by dreams and grief and the ghost of a woman who'd loved him too much. If this story has changed you, don't just watch. Subscribe and share it. You never know who needs to hear this today. And if you love someone, tell them. Show them. See them. Now. Before it's too late. 1 year after Lily's death, Damien Morrison attended Emma Rodriguez's 9th birthday party. The backyard was filled with balloons and laughter. Children ran screaming with joy. Parents chatted and drank lemonade. It was chaotic and beautiful and alive. Emma ran up to him, her dark curls bouncing, her smile wide. Mr. Morrison, you came. I promised, didn't I? She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a table covered in paintings. Look, I've been practicing. Mama says I'm getting really good. Damien looked at the paintings and felt his breath catch. They were stunning, bold colors and fearless strokes. The work of a child, yes, but also the work of someone with genuine talent. These are incredible, Emma. This one's my favorite. She pointed to a painting of a woman with stars in her hair. It's the angel lady, the one who gave me her heart. How do you know what she looked like? I don't. Not really. Emma touched her chest. But sometimes I dream about her. And she always has stars in her hair, and she's smiling. She tells me to paint, to make beautiful things, to be brave. Damien knelt down to Emma's level. She was a lot like that in real life. She loved beautiful things. She was the bravest person I ever knew. Did you know her? I did. Were you friends? She was my wife. Emma's eyes went wide. The angel lady was married to you? Yes. Then why aren't you sad all the time? My teacher's husband died and she's always sad. I am sad. Every single day. But I'm also grateful. Because even though she's gone, she gave you life. She gave 5 other people life. She left behind so much beauty that I'm still discovering it. Damien smiled sadly. And she taught me to finally pay attention. To see what's right in front of me instead of looking past it. Emma considered this seriously. Then she picked up her painting of Lily. You can have this. So you remember her. Emma, I couldn't. She was your wife. You should have a picture of her with stars in her hair. Emma pressed the painting into his hands. Besides, I can always paint another one. She tells me stories all the time. Damien hugged the little girl carefully, feeling Lily's heart beating against his chest. Thank you, Emma. This is the most precious gift anyone's ever given me. You're welcome. She pulled back and grinned. Want to play tag? You can be at first because you're old and probably slow. He laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in a year. Okay, but I'm faster than I look. He wasn't. Emma caught him in about 30 seconds while other children screamed with glee. Damien stood in the Rodriguez's backyard, surrounded by life and noise and joy, holding a painting of his dead wife with stars in her hair, and felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. Maybe never. But peace. Lily's heart was beating in a child who would grow up to create beauty, who would live and love and matter, who would know she was a miracle. And somehow in that Lily lived on. That evening, Damien returned to his new apartment. Small. Modest. Nothing like the Morrison estate. He hung Emma's painting on the wall above his desk. Lily with stars in her hair, smiling, eternal. He pulled out a journal, something his therapist had suggested. Write to her, Dr. Stevens had said. Tell her the things you never got to say. Damien opened to a blank page and began to write. Dear Lily, I met Emma today. She's extraordinary, full of life and joy and talent. Your heart is in good hands. She gave me a painting of you. Said you visit her in dreams and tell her to be brave. I don't know if that's real or if it's just her imagination, but I hope it's real. I hope some part of you lives on in her. I hope you get to see the life you gave her. The foundation is thriving. We've given out 47 scholarships so far, opened 3 gallery spaces, mentored over 100 women who thought they had to choose between their art and their families. Your forever home is almost finished. It's beautiful, Lily. Exactly like you drew it. I walk through it sometimes and imagine what it would have been like if we'd built it together. If I'd paid attention to your dreams instead of just my own. I'm in therapy twice a week, learning how to be present, how to feel without running, how to let people in instead of pushing them away. It's hard. It hurts. But I'm trying. I sold the company last month. Marcus runs it now. I couldn't do it anymore. Building empires cost me everything that mattered. I won't make that mistake again. I don't know what I'll do next. Maybe nothing. Maybe something small. Maybe something that matters to people instead of just making money. I'm learning to sit with silence. To eat breakfast without checking my phone. To notice when the sun sets and what color the sky turns. All the things you tried to show me for 5 years. I'm sorry I learned too late. I went on a date last week. Marcus set it up. A woman named Rachel who runs a nonprofit for homeless veterans. She's kind. Present. She asks questions and listens to the answers. I told her about you. About what I did. What I failed to do. She said you must have been incredibly strong to love someone who couldn't love you back. I said you were the strongest person I'd ever known. We didn't go out again. Not because she wasn't wonderful, but because I'm not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. You're everywhere, Lily. In every art gallery. In every painting. In every woman I see choosing her dreams over compromise. In Emma's laugh. In the silence of my apartment when I come home at night. In the space beside me in bed that stays empty. You're gone, but you're not gone. And I'm here, finally, paying attention. Seeing. Living. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's what you asked for in your last letter. Be present, you said. Be here. Be alive. So I am. For you. For Emma. For all the women whose dreams the foundation keeps alive. For myself. I don't know if you can hear me, wherever you are. I don't know if there's an afterlife, or if this is just words on a page. But if you can hear me, I see you now. I finally see you. And you were magic. Forever sorry. Damien. He closed the journal and looked at Emma's painting. Lily smiled at him from canvas and memory, stars in her hair, forever young, forever beautiful, forever gone. Outside his window, the city glittered with a million lights. People living, loving, making mistakes, learning too late, trying anyway. The world kept turning. Lily's heart kept beating. And Damien Morrison, the man who'd had everything and lost what mattered, finally learned what his wife had known all along. Presence is love. Attention is love. Seeing someone, really seeing them, is the purest form of love there is. He'd learned it too late to save his marriage. But not too late to honor her memory. Not too late to change. Not too late to help others avoid his mistakes. Not too late to finally be present in his own life. Lily Morrison had wanted to disappear. But what she left behind, her art, her heart, her love, her lesson, would echo forever. Some people enter our lives quietly, love us silently, and leave behind echoes that scream forever. Lily was that person. And Damien learned the cruelest lesson of all. You never know what you have until it's a ghost holding your heart. If this story moved you, think about someone in your life right now. Someone you might be taking for granted. Someone whose coffee you don't remember. Someone whose dreams you haven't asked about in years. Call them, text them, see them, before it's too late. Because one day, you'll wish you had. Subscribe for more stories that matter. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you love someone, show them. Now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now.